they started shooting at me. And then my instinct was, I'm out. And so I jumped off the mountain.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Climb Your Mountain podcast. My name is Jake Ballantyne. I'm thrilled to be here with you to help you climb your metaphorical mountain, whether that's in business, whether that's in your personal life, your health, your finances, whatever it is that matters to you. This podcast is about helping you reach that mountaintop of where you want to go. Today, this is our first episode, and I'm so excited to have Kenny Barnwell with me. Kenny, first of all, hey, Kenny, you want to say hi?
Hey, what's up, Jake? Man, I am so blessed to be here.
This is not our traditional kind of a podcast where I'm going to go through and share bios and go through every little detail of everything. This is really more of a conversation. Kenny and I have been friends for years, but recently at a conference that I was hosting, I had Kenny come and speak and share his story about something that happened to him last year, about a experience that he had with the cartel. And this story was so incredibly inspiring that I wanted to have him come onto this podcast and share it for our first episode, having him come and share this story. Kenny, before we get into the details of the story, can you give us a little background of you before your cartel experience of last year?
Well, things were pretty normal in my life, traveling the world with some of the top music artists.
I like how you call that normal.
Well, I mean, it's true. For the
Normal for
past,
you.
yeah, well, for the past 20 plus years, I've traveled the world doing event production, working with music artists. And, I've had a lot of travel experience and a lot of culture experience. And before this incident with the cartel, I've had a lot of travel down in Mexico where this happened. And so this was one of those life experiences that you read about and that you hear about. That just like it changed everything for me. Because like I said, just traveling with music artists, kind of doing the grind of tour life, man.
Yeah, now I love inspiring stories. I love inspiring stories because we can see ourselves in them. We can see ourselves and we can see that, you know what? If Kenny can get through this, then I can get through the thing that I'm going through. That's why I love these kinds of stories. I want to jump right into this, but I just want to reiterate again at the beginning of this, the story that Kenny shared with us at this conference. I mean, it had people in tears. It touched people's hearts, and I wanted to bring this to every one of you because of the value that I know it's going to bring with you. So I would invite you to sit back, relax, listen, be here for this story, or whether you have earbuds in, you're going for a run, you're doing whatever. But I got to tell you, as much hyperbole as that might sound, this story is going to be worth the listen. So,
Mm.
Kenny, if we can get started, what was going on the day that this occurred?
Well, like I mentioned, it was a pretty normal tour day. We were at the end of a South American and Mexico tour with an artist that I was working with. We just finished up Mexico City, two shows over there. We flew into Monterrey, Mexico, and we get to the hotel. We drop our bags, and I'm a fitness guy. In fact, I was actually doing that program 75 Hard. You know that one?
Yeah, yeah.
I was on like day 14 on 75 hard and I needed to do my outdoor workout. So I just threw my running clothes on, was listening to a podcast, grabbed my water bottle, and I started to head out outside the hotel to go and do a run actually. Now, right behind the hotel in Monterey, there was this hiking trail that went up to this mountain ridge up at the top, and could see it from my hotel room window. I was up on the ninth floor. I could look out, and I saw locals kind of going up and down this mountain trail. I was like, man, that'd be awesome to go jog up the trail, run up the road a little bit, come back down, maybe take some pictures of the valley. Because if you haven't seen Monterey, like beautiful, think like California style mountains, like really a beautiful area. And I did just that, man. I grabbed my water bottle, headed on out, waved to the bell captain up front in front of the hotel, and little did I even know what was about to be in store for me. And that was kind of like how I set the scene. Was it was just a normal Kenny's going out on a run. I texted my wife. I told her, hey, I'm going to do my outdoor workout. You know, everyone knows me as being the fitness guy out on this tour. And so it was no weird thing that I was headed off to go and do this. But that mountain trail, I didn't know this, but I shouldn't have gone up there, basically, because when it took me about 10 or 15 minutes to get up this mountain trail, I'm passing by locals, people wearing, hospital scrubs, working in the valley below, grandmothers and families. Like I'm passing by them on this trail to get up to the top of this mountain ridge to this dirt road. I walked up about, I don't know, 100 yards or so to get a little bit more elevation so I could take a picture of the valley below and all the skyscrapers. And like it's a beautiful area of Mexico. It was about 6:15 in the evening time. The sun hadn't gone down yet. It was like perfect lighting, really beautiful. And I took some pano pictures, started taking some photos, and I go to turn around to walk back to the trailhead. And that's when I looked to my right because I felt the presence of this motorcycle with two dudes that were sitting on it. And essentially, they go to try to rob me. They were like asking me for my phone. And at first, I just kind of pointed to my headphones and just kind of ignored them and kept walking, like to try to get back to the trailhead. But, I had that gut feeling like, man, something is about to go, something bad is about to happen. And one of the two guys, as I'm walking really, really quickly now at this point, was like right up on me. He had jumped off the motorcycle and was walking real fast right next to me and kind of doing the same thing, like, give me your phone. As far as they knew, some gringo was up there on the mountain taking pictures. Now, what I didn't know at this point was on the backside of that mountain ridge was a neighborhood. And that neighborhood was one of the most dangerous favelas neighborhoods in all of the Americas, like cartel land. If you know where Monterey is, it sits in the state of Nuevo Leon. So it's like right below Texas. And the dude's up, he's walking real fast right next to me. And that startled me. So I kind of like was taken aback. And when I did that, I looked back behind me, and the other guy that was driving the motorcycle had parked the motorcycle right in the middle of the dirt road and was like walking real fast towards me with this small boulder, like small stone in his hand. And the next thing I know, he just throws it at me and chucks it and almost hits me in the head.
Wow.
And I mean, like I said, I'm a fitness guy, but aside from that, I've always focused on resilience and mental toughness and just trying to be ready for anything. But I had no idea what I was actually needing to be ready for at this point, because he throws the rock at me. It almost hits me. And at that point, I just took off running. I was like, screw this. I'm out of here. I've got two little babies at home. I got two little toddlers at home. They need their dad. I was not about to, let them kidnap me or kill me. That's for sure. I was going to fight. So I go to take off running, trying to make it to that trailhead. And when I'm up on this dirt road. The mountain ridge is to my left, and it's steep, man. When I say mountains, think like California style mountains. It's rocky. There's cactus and thorn bushes. There's aloe plants and rattlesnakes and scorpions and that type of thing. And I'm running for my life. And all of a sudden, another boulder comes flying by my head. And this time it kind of clips my left ear and it calls me to stumble. My phone shattered, went everywhere. My water bottle shattered. My headphones popped out. And of course, if you ever fell on a gravel dirt road, like, the rocks go into your hands and your knees. And I go to look back and I pop up, and because I'm running faster than the one guy. And when I did that, I look back and here comes two more matching motorcycles with two guys apiece hauling ass towards me. And at that point, man, I got to admit, man, I was afraid, I was afraid for my life.
I want to pause for a second. What an understatement to say that you're afraid. When that first happened, what were you thinking? Did you think that this was just a random person who is robbing the random gringo that's on a hike, or did you think that it was connected to the cartel? At what point, I guess the question is, At the beginning, did you think it was just, look, this is just an uncomfortable situation and hopefully I can get away? And at what point did you realize this was more than just someone trying to steal your phone?
Well, I mean, at that
Okay.
moment, when I saw the matching motorcycles, the identical matching motorcycles, with two guys apiece on them, I knew that it was an organized thing. I knew that it wasn't just some punk guys that lived in that neighborhood on the other side of this mountain ridge just trying to rob me. Because they tell you when you travel to these places about like, hey, it's palpable, the cartel, stay close to the hotel. But mind you, I'm a block and a half from the hotel. I can see my hotel from this mountain road, you
So
know?
this is the trail behind your hotel. This is like
Yeah.
you didn't even drive anywhere.
No, literally a block and a half away. I could see it from my hotel room.
Wow.
And I knew that like these guys were up to no good, clearly. So I go to jump back up. And at that moment, in my mind, I'm thinking, cartel, possibly. And I'm thinking they're going to kill me because they always tell you, like, the cartel, they're ruthless. They're not going to just like take you, they're going to probably just kill you. And the first thought in my head was about my family, was my two little kids. I have a 2 year old and a 3 year old. And so I go to jump up really quickly. As I look back, I see those motorcycles and the guys hauling ass towards me, and I'm running. At this point, I jump up and I'm running for my life to try to make it to that trailhead. Maybe I was gonna slide down it. I just knew that I was like, I gotta get away. And that's when they started shooting at me.
Mm.
And all I heard was the first shot, the second shot, and then my instinct was I'm out. And so I jumped off the mountain. And of course, when I'm running probably, I don't know, 20 plus miles an hour forward. The steepness of the mountain, when I jumped off, it was kind of like a forward trajectory with the steepness. And when I went to land, it snapped my femur and I rolled and slammed into a cactus.
Mm.
And of course, at that moment, in my mind, I even yelled out, I've got kids. Like that was like what I yelled out, man.
Wow. You're
Like
hoping you have a sense of mercy from them at that point.
so I'm like, I don't know. It just kind of came out in me like, I'm a dad. Like I've got kids, and I mean, I'm 40 years old and it's like, I got a lot of life in front of me. And so the cactus ends up stopping me. But like at that point, those other motorcycles were there. And that was probably about 30 feet down the mountain. And so I go to try to stand up because they're still on me. And when I did that, this severe pain rushes through my body. I collapse again because I broke my hip, my femur. And I roll again. It breaks my left forearm. And then I roll and slam into a thorn bush that was probably another 15 feet down the mountain from the top,
Wow.
And of course, over the thorns, over the rocks, I'm covered in cactus. I'm scraped up. I pull myself into this thorn bush and I'm like I stop to assess the damage first of all, and I pull myself into this bush. I look at my arms poked out, like the bones poked out, not out of my skin, but like pushing against it. And so it's clearly broken. I look down at my hip, and all I felt was a severe pain because it's all internal. I feel this pain, and I'm like on fight or flight,
Mm.
you know and I'm in this thorn bush and I could look up through the top of the thorn bush and I saw a couple of the guys and I could hear them go down to that trail that I was on that I was trying to make it to. They were clearly going to try to cut me off. And I could hear
Okay.
them kind of going that way. And the other motorcyclist pulls up. The motorcycles are still up top running. And I could see through the top of the thorn bush that a couple of them started to walk down the mountain towards me to see where I had rolled. They didn't see me. They had lost sight of me when I rolled into this thorn bush.
So they're now going surrounding you. They're going kind of looking at a point to where they can get here's people coming this way. They're trying to cut you off over there. Um,
That's right.
did they think, well, I mean, how do you know? There's no way of knowing this, but do you think that they thought you were some kind of spy? Do you think they thought that you're just, it doesn't matter if you're here, too bad? Like what do
Right.
you think they were thinking you were?
You know, in hindsight, here I am. I'm dressed in black
Because
because
you're a crew guy.
I'm a crew guy. I'm an event crew guy, so we only wear black. And I'm sitting there taking pictures up top. My guess in their mind is they're like, "Who's this gringo up here taking pictures?" And they probably thought I was some sort of law enforcement or connected or something like that. Because again, I didn't find out until hindsight that that neighborhood was a cartel, like old cartel headquarter type neighborhood, and that those six guys were most likely the watchmen for this neighborhood.
So I wonder if it was one of those situations that all the locals know this is, you don't go here. So I wonder if they thought, well, if this guy's here, he must be here for some reasons of trying to, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, probably so. And the hotel probably should have said, "Hey, look, that's a locals only trail. Don't go up there." You know?
Locals only, that's a good way to say it. They should say, hey, don't go there. You're gonna die.
Yeah, well, that would have been a nice, warning, but there was none of that. The hotel staff saw me walking up that way. Maybe I don't know, but my guess is somebody that I passed on the trail or along that road probably told these guys that I was up there. You know, my guess. I mean, I passed multiple people going up and down that road, and mind you, it's still daytime. And
Yeah.
so, I'm in there in this thorn bush. I'm looking through, the guys are starting to kind of walk down towards me. And my first instinct was, God, like I just prayed. I said, God, I said, if you want to save me, like tell me what to do, please. And at that moment, Jake, this hummingbird came out of nowhere and started feeding on this flower on the thorn bush right in front of me. And in my mind, I'm like, pain, my hip hurts, my bone, by the way, I snapped my bone back in place so I could try to use it. I thought it was a dislocated elbow, but turns
Because you
out
broke your elbow as well.
no, it wasn't. It was one of the two bones in my forearm is what I found out. But I thought I was relocating my elbow when I did that. I didn't realize I was just snapping my bone back into
But this
place.
was on that original jump. That original
Yeah.
jump, you broke your femur and then you broke an arm.
And I
You
rode
broke one
again.
of these bones
That's
here.
right. And I broke one of the two bones in my forearm. And so when I did that, I'm praying to God and I see this hummingbird feeding on this flower in front of me. And in my mind, I'm just like in this chaos. They're bearing down on me. They're trying to find me. They're hunting me. And I go, God, you are such a comedian because the bird was so beautiful. And I recognize the beauty in this chaos. Like in my mind, I'm going, wow, beautiful. And the same thought, I'm going, God, what are you doing? like this is crazy. I said, please, God, like if you want me to live, please, because if I don't move, they're gonna find me. And if I move, maybe they'll hear me. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I can't walk. I don't know what to do. Please, God. And at that moment, Jake, this monarch butterfly flies past my left shoulder, right in front of my head, and I hear a loud voice internally yelling at me that says, "Follow the butterfly." And I get this divine strength. I put my right hand down, I put my left leg down, and I just drag my body through the thorns into an even denser thorn bush. And of course, it's ripping me to pieces, but there's a hierarchy to pain, right? And I get into this bush, and this monarch butterfly lands on the thorn bush right in front of me, not scared of me. And I'm ripping through this thing, and I stop. And I had this inclination like, okay, stop, you know, because this area that I'm going down, there was no trails. It's treacherous. The locals don't even go through this area, of course, right? But what was so crazy is at that moment, about a minute and a half, 2 minutes later, one of the two guys comes around the bush that I was just in. Now, maybe he heard me. I don't know. But I know that, like, I followed this butterfly into this thorn bush by the grace of God and was not found.
Wow.
And at that moment, I look across the valley because it's a beautiful mountain range and I see the bottom of the sun touching the top of the mountain in the distance. And I just knew that I was like, I got to wait till dark. Like I got to stay here until the sun fully goes down and it gets dark before I make any moves again. Like internally, I just knew I needed to do that.
So you were staying in that thorn bush. You were staying
Yeah.
right there. I want to ask you a couple questions as you're sharing this story. First of all, when you made that jump and you broke your hip, you broke your arm or broke your femur, broke your arm, you mentioned that the pain, you felt
Mhm.
that excruciating pain when you went to get up. I'm
Yeah.
curious, was the adrenaline so strong that when it actually happened, did you feel the pain when it actually happened, or was it not until you got up? It's just it's so interesting for me to hear your story as you talked about hierarchy of pain.
Yeah.
One of the inspiring things about your story is I believe that every single one of us is stronger than we think we are, and we can do
No.
so much more than we think we can. And it's in moments like this that we start to experience that, oh, actually, if I was put up against a rock in a hard place, I would have no choice and I would find a way to do it. So tell me about that. Did you feel it
Yeah.
when you hit the ground?
Man, I'll tell you, it took some hindsight to kind of think back because yes, in short, I felt the bone break. I heard it break. Like I didn't really recognize the sound until I was in that first thorn bush that that's what that was. But like I heard both breaks.
Mm.
I'm crashing through thorns and this dryness and the cactus and the rocks. And so there's a lot of noise. But
So
like,
did you know a difference between that and the
yeah,
branches breaking?
yes, because when
Okay.
I went to land, my leg obviously locked because I tried to land and it just snapped. And so I initially felt that first snap. The femur snapped right at the ball and the femur. And so right there at the hip ball joint and the femur. And so I heard that snap. And first of all, I've never broken a bone in my life up until this point. And so it's very obvious what it was. And
Okay.
then the second time when I go to get back up because I'm rushing and I feel that pain rush through me, I mean, and I roll again, snap, like I'm like going, man, I am literally just like tearing myself to pieces here. I thought about that as I'm rolling through, but I also was like, man, please don't hit my head on a rock. Like you're thinking about some of these things because you hear about some traumatic experiences where I was like time slowed down. But man, because it was flight or flight, like time was not as slow as I have like been in car accidents in the past, where it's
Hmm.
like it felt real slow. Man, this was so quick moving because I was being hunted, and shot at. And so the first snap, I definitely felt it. It was like I mean, a grown man scream. You know what I mean? I screamed very loud, and of course, I yelled out, "I've got kids." And then when I went to get up to try to like get away, and I rolled again and snapped my arm, I just thought to myself, like, man, I am just like I'm really doing some damage to myself. But I just knew I needed to get away. Like I was not about to let them take me or kill me.
And when you're walking or not walking, when you're crawling, you're doing like if you can imagine for everyone listening, it's like a crab walk, like a spider walk kind of thing. You're not going forward, you're on one arm and one leg because you have one good arm, one good leg. You're faced up with your arm and leg down. Is that correct?
Yeah, and of course I banged those other areas, so they're hurt as well.
They're
But
hurt too,
like
just not
they're just
immobile.
well, that's right, and they're not broken. And again, like it was not the same type of movement the entire mountain, because first of all, I thought my elbow was dislocated, so I snapped it back into place, but it kept what I thought dislocating. All it was doing was like kind of snapping back off the bone. And I kept snapping it back in place because I was able
Mm,
to kind of like not push down on it pressure wise, but stability wise. So I wasn't going to tip over because I had two odd limbs. You know
yeah.
what I mean? It wasn't like a straight crab walk where I could, and I was pulling myself along on gravel, thorns, cactus, small cactus, that type of thing. And so my body was getting ripped up like through my clothes because I only had like thin running shorts and a t-shirt on at this point and no hat
Ugh.
on or anything because I lost my hat at the top of the mountain. Like, and so my clothes was being ripped up. And so my whole side, because I ended up not just scooting on my butt because my butt got ripped up at that point. Like I would flip on one side and try to like scissor myself down on one side. I would flip around on my back and try to like do this, like back pedal or back swim basically
Mm,
down the mountain, and I would come down upside down until my back was too raw. I would have to kind of maneuver my body to wherever would allow me to drag because I couldn't drag the crab way the whole time, you know?
wow. You're talking about, I love the moment of seeing the hummingbird and seeing the butterfly and having that faith to follow. And we're going to continue with the story in a moment. We hear a lot of stories of people who get into experiences like this, and the phrase that I've heard is there's no atheists in foxholes.
That.
What's that?
I said, I believe that, man.
Have you heard that phrase before?
You know what? I haven't, but it's probably very real with what I could share with you.
I think that was a friend of mine. That was a friend of mine who's a veteran and had been, had seen combat and things like that. And he said that phrase to me that, there's no atheists in foxholes. And I guess it was a phrase that's used frequently in the military and that kind of a thing. But I'm curious, was your faith something that you already had, or was that a moment of going back to something?
No, I like to say that God found me wandering. Not too long ago, about I don't know, 10 months before I had my first kid, which is a little over 4.5 years ago now. God found me out there wandering the world and started talking to me. But my relationship was definitely not a straight walk with Jesus as I'm a Christian now. So the faith was definitely deepened on that mountain. No, I asked for God to guide me. I asked for strength. I asked for protection, because at the same time I'm going through this, I understood that I was going through something divine. To me, this wasn't just a survival situation because I was being attacked and hunted and going through this experience. I knew that I was being divinely guided because when I surrendered at that first bush and said, God, I don't know what to do, please show me. And there were those signs, obviously the beauty and the chaos with the hummingbird, but follow the butterfly. That voice kept coming back. And so my faith was a massive uh, guiding light through this. Now since the mountain, most people are trying to climb mountains. I'm trying to get down one, Jake. but but through this experience on the mountain, I've deepened my faith with God and my surrender with God. And the reason why is because I feel like I was being put through this experience for a reason. This wasn't just some accident that I had gone through. Like, I feel like I was being put through this for a reason, and it was me and not other guys in my organization. Because the first thing that other people in the camp that I was working with, the artist camp that I was working with, when they heard about what happened the next day, they were like, only Kenny would have survived that.
Mm,
Because the things in my life that I had done up until this moment, I'm a coach, I focus on, I'm a speaker, obviously. I focus on, mental toughness and resilience. I mean, I was in the middle of 75 hard, a second round of 75 hard when I went through this. And so it's like, it was to me, no coincidence that this happened to me and that I heard the voices that I heard on that mountain.
yeah. I
No,
think it's amazing that you were able to follow that and follow those guides, because not only does it take faith to pray, to seek for guidance and to seek for help, but then to see a butterfly and to see a butterfly where you say, follow that, and it's going into a thorn bush, and you say, all right, I'm going that way. I mean, that's just really incredible. And I just wanted to take a moment to recognize you for that ability to follow, because I think that um, I have a belief that we receive no witness until after the trial of our faith. We're
mm,
given we're given guidance And oftentimes, people, us as humans, we want to see the proof first, and then we'll go and do it. But I don't think that's how God works.
No.
We are given guidance and we receive that witness after that trial of our faith. And you did that. You did that amazingly well, getting to that thorn bush. So the last piece of this story now was you were in that thorn bush. You're watching the sun go down, and now you're looking. Okay, I'm going to wait for the sun go down. So take us from there now. Let's keep going in this.
Well, there's a lot of story between that bush and the bottom of the mountain. There's a lot of micro stories there. But essentially, I like to say like that's kind of when the craziness started. I mean, look, it was crazy going through that initial jump and the leap and the but like, man, I spent over 12 hours on that mountain that night trying
Mm.
to drag my broken body down to the street to safety while they were hunting me throughout the night. And it's one thing breaking your hip, breaking your arm, but then to have that type of adversity in front of you, like anytime Kenny, got in the way, uh, I would go to want to give up. Like for instance, it would sometimes take me, 2 hours just to drag my body 10 feet, 15 feet over this treacherous landscape, you know? And I would get to a point to where I would have to like go around some rock or over some tree or around or through some thorn bush because a lot of it I had to stay in the thorns for cover. And I like I couldn't move my hip a certain way or my leg a certain way, or I didn't have the strength to get around this obstacle. And I would give up. I would say, well, I mean, I guess they're just gonna have to try and find me tomorrow. I'm just gonna end up being out asleep out here. Like I don't know, like I'm done. So I would lay my head in the thorns. I don't know for how long, 15, 20 minutes. I'd lay my head in the thorns. And then I would get a vision in my head of like how to go through that obstacle in a way that I hadn't considered yet. And then immediately after, I would hear that voice again. But this time it would say, keep moving forward. And it would wake me up. And I would get the divine strength again. And I would move through that obstacle in the way that I had seen in the vision with the strength that I needed. And this happened, Jake, time and time and time again. There were gifts that I gotten along the way that I say God gave me. I don't have it on me here, but I have this stone, this rock that fit perfectly inside my hand. It was thin and it fit perfectly in my hand, like almost like made for my hand, enough for my right hand to protect my palm from the rocky and the thorns so I could actually push off with my right hand.
Oh,
And
wow.
that rock, I lost it a couple of times where I would drop it and it would roll or whatever. And then that rock on that big old mountain would literally show up right at my feet again.
Wow. And you kept that rock?
I had it all the way and it was in my pocket. And the security guy that they put with me, the artist put with me, kept it for me and I have it. Yeah.
Where do you keep it now?
Well, it used to be here at my desk. I've got it in a
Well, you just moved,
I
so
just moved. Yeah, I just moved to a new location, but I keep it here on my desk on my computer desk, so I can just look at that and be reminded of the gifts that I was given. The gifts like that. There was a bin, like a plastic bin that helped protect me at one point. There was this bucket that allowed me to get up off my body at one point. That gave me some relief. There was a tire with a pole sticking out of the middle of it at one point that allowed me to stand up on one leg. There were these gifts that I received along the way, but that was kind of like the whole mountain was I would drag my body, get ripped up even more, and then I would hit an obstacle, I would give up, I would lay my head in the thorns or on the rocks, and then I would see the visions on how to do it in a way I hadn't considered, and then I would get woken up with keep moving forward, and then
wow.
I would keep moving forward. And what was so hard, Jake, was my hotel. was right there. Like the mountain's steep, the hotel's a block and a half away, so I could see the front, the front of the hotel, cars pulling up. I could even see my hotel room because I left it open, my blinds open on the ninth floor. I could see my hotel. I could hear the commotion of the city, but it might as well have been a million miles away. Like it was inspiring to know that I'm so close and all I got to do is reach that. But when you're dragging your body, 10 feet in 2 hours, that gets overwhelming. And so at some point, I would have to stop looking at the hotel. I would have to stop looking at the hotel. I would shorten the goal and I would focus on like getting to the next log or the next rock or the next bush until the minutia of that work got so overwhelming. And then I would look back up at my vision, my hotel, just so I can get re-inspired that I was actually moving in the right direction, that I was getting a little bit closer. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
in order to kind of continue down this descent, it was that kind of repetitiveness of looking at the vision. Okay, it got too overwhelming to realize how slow I'm moving. So then I would focus on the shorter goals. And then I would get into the minutia of the grind, the literal grind of rocks over my body. And then I would get overwhelmed. I would hear the visions or see the visions, hear the voice. I'd keep moving forward. But then it was this blend of like looking at the hotel to get inspired and then focusing on the work. Look at the hotel to get inspired and then focusing on dragging my broken body across these rocks.
That's such an interesting thing looking at that analogy of what success is like, what any progress in anything is like, what you're describing. And I love the extreme example here for everyone who has um, any kind of goal, anything that you're working towards. It can be overwhelming when you see the long distance of where you're going, or it might feel like you're going so slow, or it might feel like you're not moving forward. But there's this balance between long term, short term. We focus on the long term too long, it starts to get overwhelming, like we'll never get there. If we focus on the short term too long, the minutia starts to drive us crazy. And I love hearing your story, sharing this because it puts things into perspective. Because what ends up happening for us, our mind, our silly little human brain that is designed to keep us safe, our calendar is too full and we start to have anxiety as if we're going through a life and death situation. We feel like we're not going to reach a deadline, and we start to feel like we're in these kinds of situations. And I think it's so interesting to see that you experiencing this or having the same kind of feelings there. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts that you have for people um, who are in that situation? Because I know I'm sure you've been in that situation before this. You probably have a very different perspective of it now than you used
Yeah.
to. But what are your thoughts as a lesson for someone who's going through something challenging right now, how they can take your experience and grow from it?
Well, my hope is that you realize the only way forward is forward. The only way to reach it is to keep moving forward, just like the voice told me to keep moving forward, and realize that you are a lot stronger than you think when it matters most. Like when your life depends on it, when it's something that like is a complete commitment. Like there was no backup plan with this. There was no retreat. It was I'm making it home to my family, and I tapped into that. I would tap into those moments. Like for instance, at one point, there was this big concrete wall of this property that I kind of came upon down the mountain. And the hotel room in the front of the hotel, like I couldn't see it anymore, you know? But the things that kind of kept me inspired were the things that I was working to getting back towards. I would be on that mountain thinking about my wife, and thinking about my two children, thinking like this can't be the last time they see their dad. That last time that I said goodbye to them, that can't be it. Like it hurts to move forward. It hurts to drag my body down. It was uncertain and confusing. Like there was just this pain and this fear, but I had to keep moving forward or I was not going to get to see them again. And I would be on that mountain in my feelings, like sobbing, going, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to my wife that I got myself into this. I'm so sorry to my children that their dad might die tonight. I'm sorry. Like I promise God, if you can get me through this, I'll put you first, and I will not allow the small things to worry me anymore. There's a hierarchy to worry. And
Yeah.
that's my advice is, through the pain's inevitable. Obviously the pain and going through this made me stronger, resilience, right? Like that's a gimme. You do hard things, you're going to get harder and stronger. That's the only way to get stronger is to do hard things. I mean, that's it,
Yes.
you know, but like in this impossible situation that you might feel like you're in, surrender, surrender, and just keep moving forward. Because anytime I got in my head and I started to give up, you know, it was the fact that God woke me up and said, no, 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 you're not done yet. You got to keep moving forward. Do you want to die on this mountain? Do you want to not be with your family? Do you want to not make it? Like this is not about victimizing yourself or pity party. Like, stop, keep going, keep moving forward. There was plenty of times where I got in my head and I would give up, Jake. I would literally just go, I don't know how I'm going to make it any further, especially when I got further down the mountain. Um, so after about, I don't know, it was probably midnight or so, the cartel members, they stopped looking for me. I knew it was midnight because the moon was up tall in the sky. Well, then about 2.5, 3 hours later, I was actually on that tire with the pole sticking out of it. I'm up on one leg and I'm like letting the blood rush back down to my right leg, and I'm just enjoying this breeze going across the mountain. And I look up and it looked like the houses at the top of the mountain had kind of turned on their back porch lights. And then I noticed there were 6 of them and they started to kind of do this towards me. And I was like, oh man, like those lights are not floodlights on back of houses. Like those things are headed, those are the guys, like they're coming back. And they came back out to hunt me again to try and find me because my guess is they probably assumed that because I didn't pop out on the street yet or come out on that trail because they had guys waiting on me down there that I must still be out there. And they were not about to let me go. You know, Cartel's ruthless. They were not about to let me go. And and so, at that moment, my body was so badly broken, like obviously my hip and my arm, but like my body's scraped up. I'm covered in thorns. I'm covered in cactus. Like the cactus is getting pushed deeper into my body and on every drag, right? Because of the needles sticking out or now pushed in. And so I am hurting in places that I did not even know you could hurt. But here I am. I still had a long way to go. At this point, by the way, I mean, it was another almost 4 hours. And that was one of the most treacherous parts of this mountain. And so I go and I crash back down because I couldn't just sit down, from standing up on this pole. I crash back down and then I go to try to drag myself. And I was like, I've got nothing left in me. Like I physically did not have anything left in me. I can't run. I'm kind of covered by this not really thick thorn bush at all. Like it was very thin. And I had a black shirt on with my logo on it, my Crusader logo on it. And so I sat there on my back. I covered my logo like this, and I thought to myself, that's it. Like after all of this work, all of this effort, here they come. They're gonna find me. They probably saw me standing up on that pole or something like that. That's why they came back out because it was in a little bit of a clearing. And I thought, this is it. Like after all of this effort, this is how I'm gonna die. And they got about 10 feet from me with dogs, by the way. They brought dogs out, but for whatever reason, they walked the other way. 10 feet from the bush that I was actually laying on my back in, covering my logo up because it's white. They walked the other way, Jake. I, God, man. Like if you were an atheist in this foxhole, you would not be an atheist on the way out of this thing because there is no other way to explain. And I prayed. I said, God, please surrendered again. I said, please, Lord, please don't let them find me. You know. But I
And
was
they're
also
10 feet away.
they were about 10 feet away from this
Oh
bush,
my
man,
gosh, that's amazing.
and they walked the other way. And I thought to myself, I do not know how they did not see me. And of course, I mean, probably 40 minutes until they were far enough away to kind of like continue scooting on. And then between that point and the street, Jake, there's this steep gully that I ended up sliding into. And what was so crazy about the gully is I slid down this gully upside down on accident because that was just the way it kind of worked out when I was dragging my body. And I go to slide down this gully, and there was all of these aloe plants in the moonlight. Like the moon was shining through the trees and all of these beautiful aloe plants. I'm like, wow, like I didn't have any water, any food. I was just gonna like do my run and go back to the hotel and eat, right? And so I was starving, and I was like, man, I could finally get some sustenance. But when I rolled down in there, I look at the aloe, and laying across the aloe was this huge snake, man. I was like, Mr. Snake, I am just passing through. Jake, I spent almost 3 hours in that gully trying to get through it. And I ended up eating aloe, which I think aloe has some sort of protective mechanism in it because like it's refreshing when you eat it, like cracking it open and eating it, but then it dries you out like crazy, man. It's crazy. But I kept eating aloe, and in my mind, because I'm such a fan of the Discovery Channel and Naked and Afraid and stuff, and I'm like thinking in my head, there's probably like banana spiders and scorpions that live in this aloe, and like I see the snake, and like it was a very tense couple hours, and I'm like slowly kind of passing by. The snake never came at me. It
So how
never
long were
even
you
got,
there with the snake?
like I said, like probably a little over 2 hours, probably 2.5 hours
And the
of
snake didn't move?
little bit, but no, man, it was like resting in along the aloe.
What kind of snake was it?
I don't know. I mean, a big rattler maybe, but I mean, it was proper, think of like forearm size snake, probably good solid 3+ feet. You know,
Wow.
like it was a
But
proper,
probably, I mean, that's what's out there is rattlesnakes. They're all
probably.
over the place.
That's right. And I was able to move through that, made it over this crazy obstacle. Again, same thing happened. I surrendered. I would get divine strength. I would reach the obstacle. I would give up because Kenny was like, I can't do this. And then I'd lay my head back in the briars. I would get the visions on how to do the obstacle. And then I would get woken up with the voice, keep moving forward, keep
Wow.
moving forward. And then I made it over these obstacles. Finally, the last section of the mountain was this about 8 foot grassy drop into the street level where the sidewalk was. And at this point, it's already twilight. The sun's starting to come up, but I don't see it yet over the mountain, but it's daytime. And I find this bin actually. And this bin, like part of a broken bin, I was able to kind of flip upside down, put my head in this bin and my shoulder, my left shoulder in this bin, and slide down this kind of grassy area because the bin would like push the grass out of the way, like this real tall grass. And when I did that, I slid down. Now, my mind, I'm thinking they're probably down here waiting on me. You know, like I was probably 2.5 blocks away from the trailhead that I came down because I had to come down a different way. You
Yeah.
know,
So you're further away now.
I'm further away on the other side of this property that I was mentioning with the wall. And so I slid down upside down, and coincidentally, Jake, this car comes down the road because cars were passing at that point. It was the valley was starting to wake up. People were starting to come to work. This car comes down the road, and it so happens to K-turn right with his headlights right on me. And I'm upside down, ripped to pieces, broken. And these guys in the car, there was like 6 construction worker guys, were all just kind of staring wide-eyed at me. And I thought, well, this is it. Like, this is probably them. And they just backed out and left. Like, what? What was that? That was crazy, right? I
So
thought,
I wonder if they're I wonder if they're people who are have no connection to the cartel, but are very aware of what this is, of
right.
what that area is, see you coming out and go, "Oh, we're not getting involved with that." I wonder if something like that was going on.
You're probably right. That's probably exactly what it was. Because again, there were 6 construction workers in there looking wide-eyed at me, and then they backed out and left. Like, I know that they had to go to work, but like, and they just coincidentally turned right when I was right where I was at.
Right.
And I don't believe in coincidences at this point. Like,
Yes.
God's saying something, you know? And so those guys leave. I get down to the pavement, to the sidewalk, and I'm like 2.5 blocks to the corner, and then another block and a half down this mountain street to the hotel. I drag myself, my body across the pavement. Cars pass. I drag myself. It took me a while to get across to the other side of the street, away from the trailhead side, but also on the same side of the hotel. I get over there, and I'm like 2.5 blocks along this pavement. But here was another gift, man. For some weird, crazy reason, God, there was this hay on the 2.5 blocks of sidewalk that I had to drag my body down. There was hay all along the sidewalk, not on the opposite side, not any up and down on either side of this 2.5 blocks, but just on the 2.5 blocks from where I crossed the street to the edge of the sidewalk where the hotel descent was hay. And that hay softened my body enough to where I could do it in 10 count pulls. I was dragging my at this point I'm on my stomach and my chest. And I'm kind of like putting my left leg up like an army crawl. And I'm pushing. I'm pushing. I still have my rock and I'm pushing. I'm pushing. I would count to 10 and then I would stop. And then cars would pass by. Some of them I was a little nervous and scared of. And then some of them I would like kind of hold my hand up. And of course, my mouth's dry. I can't talk really, barely. I'm like, hey. And people were starting to kind of come down to work. And as I got closer, I mean, I'm scared still, man, because I'm getting closer to the trailhead, of
Yeah.
course. And I'm seeing people come down the trailhead that are going to the valley to work. And here I am dragging my body on this open road, cars passing me. And finally, across the way, when I got almost to the corner, this young guy, I yelled out, he's on speakerphone on his iPhone. He parks his car. He's walking down the sidewalk across the way. And I said, hey, help, help. And he looks up and kind of confused. He walks across the street and tells the person on the phone, hold on 1 second. He speaks English. And I said, hey, look, I know I must look crazy, but you don't have to help me up or anything. Like, I just need you to like go around the corner to the hotel and tell them that one of their guests was attacked. He can't walk and he's up here on the sidewalk. And he's like, okay, okay, yes, I will help you. And so he goes down to the hotel. I look over and I'm right across from the trailhead where this all started.
Mm.
And I'm just like, that was the longest 5 minute wait of my life. I'm waiting for this to just not end like I was praying it would end. Like, even still in this moment, I had doubts that I was going to make it, but that was me talking. Like, I knew spiritually that God had other plans for me,
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
But like, I still would get in my own head thinking I'm doubting that this is actually going to succeed,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Oof. Absolutely incredible. Keep going. This is awesome.
Well, finally the hotel brings the hotel vehicle around and they get me in the back of the Cadillac Escalade from this hotel. And they were even confused on, like, because they didn't speak English, and like almost none of them spoke English. The security guys, the bell person comes up there, helps me in the back seat. I'm like in the worst pain ever. I had to lay down and like I couldn't even sit up. And then they get me like some Cokes and waters. And I'm downing that, just to get rehydrated and so I can talk again. I try and tell them who I was with, the organization. Well, finally, I'm parked at the hotel. I give them my room key. I tell them my number. So they go up there and they find my passport and all of that. Cause I had nothing on me on this mountain. Nobody even knew where I was. And at this point, it was about 7:30, 7:45 in the morning. Cause I'd popped out on the street at about 6:30, 6:45. So it took
Did
me
you
a
have
good
a
like
watch
an
on?
hour. I didn't have a watch, but by the time I was in the car, I knew what time it was because I could.
Right. So what I'm saying is because I remember your phone broke.
Yep.
And so throughout this time, like you must have had like no concept of,
Well, I'm a Boy Scout. And so my
okay,
understanding of the moon phases, like once in the moon's at the top of the sky, right? That's noon, that's midnight, and then so on. And so I was counting
okay,
the angle of the moon relative
okay,
to the horizon. I kind of had a gist of like, and then once when twilight happened, I knew that the sun rose at 6:15, 6:20 in the morning.
okay.
I have a concept of that generally. I watch a lot of
It,
Discovery Channel too, man.
well, well, there's that too, but it's amazing. I was Boy Scout as well. I'm an Eagle Scout,
Yeah,
and
okay.
I I honestly feel like I learned more from Boy Scouts than school and like
Totally.
K-12 school and college combined. Like
No doubt.
I learned more from Boy Scouts than all that experience.
Well, there's one use case right there. It came in handy for sure, knowing just kind of that gist of time. That's when I knew it because even on that mountain, I was like, I got to get down before it gets daylight because I just, like I knew at some point they gave up trying to find me, but they would probably come back in the day if I hadn't came out, right?
Yeah.
And so when I'm sitting in the hotel, I'm sitting in the vehicle. They couldn't figure out my name 100%. They thought I was saying like Kevin something. They just really didn't understand me. I don't speak Spanish. And uh the police come. And I just in my mind I'm thinking the cartel is too embedded into this entire system that they have down there. I'm like, I'm not saying anything. They're like, "Did you see faces?" That was like literally one of the first questions. "Did you see faces?" I said, "Nope. I didn't see
Mm,
anything." I didn't feel safe, man.
yeah.
I didn't feel safe telling them anything. I just said there was three matching white dirt bike motorcycles that looked kind of new, and there were six guys, and they had guns. Like that's all I told them. Where was it? Up there. That type of thing. And that was it. And they're like, well, can you come and do a police report later? Well, long story short on that, my artist was they flew me out of the country before I could go to some police station, which was a good thing. But my tour manager, they had told him they had found him about to eat breakfast that morning, about to sit down for breakfast. They found him and they said, "Hey, somebody in your organization," because I told him they were able to find his name, uh, is down here. He almost died. He was attacked. We got him in the car. It's Kevin somebody. And he's like, "We don't have a Kevin anybody in our organization." And so he was very confused. He comes down there with one of the security guys and they open the door and there's me looking crazy, beat up, and just I'm sobbing at this point because it finally hit me that I was rescued. And here I see some of my people and they were he was crying, I was crying, like it was a very emotional moment because I really felt like for the
And
first
who
time
was this?
this was our tour manager, Dave.
Okay.
Um and so he was talking to them and dealing with the hotel and dealing with the police and all that, and the security guy Steve, much love to him, he ends up letting me use his phone to call my wife. Now the last text my wife had from me was, "Hey, I'm going out on my run, um I'll talk to you soon." But that was it. But that's not abnormal for me. Usually I do say good night, but she had already gone to sleep by the time all of this happened. So I call, she doesn't answer because it's a number she doesn't know. And then I call again. And this time I leave a voicemail. And I said, "Baby," and this is all I could get out. I said, "Baby, it's me. I'm calling from Steve's phone, the security guy's phone. I've been attacked. I'm going to the hospital. I love you." Oh, and that was it. That's all I could get out, you know? And they took me to the hospital, checked me over the whole time. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. They, of course, they're asking me who happened and who was it, and I'm, saying the same thing, like I just don't know. And they told me they're like, look, you need a hip transplant and all of this, and management comes and they said, look, don't let them touch you. We're going to get you out of the country and we're going to get you back to your wife and back to your family, and we're going to find you the best, surgeon to do this. And so they sent a private medical jet out. I was on a private plane at midnight that night. I'd stayed the whole day in the Mexican hospital, flew to Tampa where I had lived at the time, and man, woke up with a hip transplant and metal in my arm,
Wow.
and my wife standing by my side. So crazy.
I mean, it's it's a story that's almost hard to believe that that could be real. And I'm curious, to you, does it sometimes feel like a dream? What does it look like? What does it feel like when you think back on this?
Well, man, it is unreal sometimes. I have to give myself a lot of grace because I'm such a doer, I'm such a provider. I mean, obviously things are different now. I've got a hip transplant, so I've been in recovery for, 7 months, a lot of physical therapy to get myself, back in action. I'm not 100% again. There's a lot of flashbacks. I have, like, every time I close my eyes, I have these flashbacks that oftentimes happen. Some nights I can't sleep because I'm just in that headspace. And, I went through a period of grief where anger, um, I ended up getting closer to God. I ended up giving my life to Christ through all of this. There was a really dark period where I felt like God saved my life. And then here I am struggling, you know, and I ended up getting baptized. And ever since I came out of that water, man, things have been different, like immediately different. And so I live very grateful. You know, it does feel sometimes like a dream, but because it was very real, and because my body is, different, I'm reminded every day when I wake up, when I go to sleep, when I go to try to pick my kids up, when I can't run yet, at the park with my children and things like that. I'm reminded of this. And I don't mind obviously talking about it and sharing. In fact, I think I told you at the conference that one of the biggest reasons that I feel like God had me go through this was to talk about his grace and strength and love and guidance through this. And that, no matter what you're going through, we have to keep moving forward, and that the way through is forward, no matter the pain, no matter any of it. Like, you must keep moving forward. And through recovery is its own mountain. Like I said, I was trying to get down a mountain. Well, climbing the mountain of recovery has been its own challenge and its own mental toughness and mental fortitude that's been required. And I think, now I'm so grateful, man. I'm so grateful. Thank you for letting me share this story with your listeners. And if nothing else, man, I just really want people to understand that they just got to keep moving forward, and sometimes you got to stop thinking too much about the minutia or about the vision or about all of it, and just surrender to the movement of forward, to keep moving forward. It's supposed to be hard. Anything worthwhile is supposed to be hard, but we got to keep moving forward.
Mm. What was it like when you got to be with your wife and kids again?
Man, when I saw her in the hospital, overwhelming emotion, like I was so sorry. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain, but I was so sorry that I was putting her through this. It's a weird, mental thing that happens, but like I was so more just like apologetic to her. I was so grateful, obviously, and hugs and kisses. And my children are 2 and 3. Well, they were 1 and 3 at the time, and so they didn't really have a grasp, other than like, dad's different now. He's got, bandages, and he came out of a hospital and all of that. And as savvy as my little ones are, but like I just I felt a lot of apology, and then eventually anger sept in, you know. So
Wow.
yeah, it's taken a lot of grace from me to forgive. Obviously I'll never forget, but I pray for those guys on that mountain every day. I pray for them that maybe they'll realize that life is it's not worth being like that, and doing that. I've forgiven them, obviously. So it's not easy, man. It's not easy.
Kenny, everything that you've said today has been extremely impressive. Everything that you said today has required so much strength, that moment of what you went through, that night of what you went through.
Mm,
But there's nothing, nothing at all that is as impressive and requires as much strength as you saying that you forgive them and
mm.
that you pray for them. That is unbelievable strength. And most people have such a hard time forgiving for little things, and it eats away at them and eats away at them forever. And I'm just so impressed with your ability to forgive them in that way when you have every right to be wishing the worst possible things upon them.
Well, that's what Jesus would have done and would do. And there's no way to move forward living in the past. No way. The things that we want is moving forward. It's all in front of us, and like I said, forgiveness, it wasn't easy. I didn't for a long time. I mean, even through recovery, like certain people that you would have thought would have been there for you that weren't there for you. You know what I mean? Even people
Yeah.
like that I pray for, like I would have thought certain people I worked with would have called me right away and checked in on me, but they still have never called. And I kind of go, well, I pray for them too, you know. And there's just I've had to give myself a lot of grace, and so of course I'm going to give grace to everyone else. And again, Jesus died on the cross for our sins, and gave us the most grace ever. And so the example that I'm leading by is that. And so I've got a long way to go, man. I'm transitioning from all of that to a new career with speaking and authoring and more books and coaching people. And so I'm on another mountain. And so I know for a fact that like I've got a lot of hard in front of me. I got a lot of challenges in front of me, but I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
That's incredible. Kenny, what are, let's say, one or two lessons that you want to leave people with that listen to your story today?
Well, I mean, focus on your vision and the goals, but have that blend. That was a really big, actionable, tangibly actionable step that I had to take in the challenge of this descent down this mountain. So sure, look at the vision and focus on the goals, but it's a blend. It's a blend. You got to figure that one out. And surrender, man. Surrender. God's speaking to you, and when you surrender and get out of your own way, then you can actually hear the guidance and the gifts. They're there. The guidance and the gifts are there when you surrender. And I think lastly, when God says to move, move, man. Keep moving forward.
I love it. Kenny, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if people are listening who just want to learn more, just want to connect, or maybe people who want to bring you into an event with their school, whatever that is, to come and speak? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
You can visit kennybarnwell.com. My website has my email and all the information to get in touch with me there. Or, of course, you can find me on social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Kenny Barnwell.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. I would love to end with what is one thing that you are grateful for?
Man, one thing, I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for God.
Mm. What an incredible story that you shared today. Everyone who is listening or watching this, I just want to remind you that whatever journey you're going through, you are stronger than you think you are. You're better than you think you are. You can do so much more than you think you can. And I hope that you can take this story from Kenny and look at it from a perspective of, If Kenny can get through that, then you can get through whatever challenge you are going through right now. Thank you so much for listening to this. Thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed this, please share this episode, share this out with people, let people know about this, share this inspiration with others. Thank you so much. Keep moving forward, keep climbing your metaphorical mountain. And remember this, just like Kenny said here, the path is forward. Keep moving forward, and you're going to see great things coming. See you guys later. Bye.